That would be hilarious.
So, well, here's a good question. I'm just scrolling through just to sort of because I'm jumping around. It didn't make sense to follow input order, but Avi Makes wants to know if you've ever mastered unicorns. Is unicorns a game?
Unicorns
Uh,
is a game. So,
oh, okay. Right on.
AV,
I
hi
did not know
AV.
that.
AV was
Oh
the
God.
merch manager for Twilight Force
Oh, nice. Very
in
nice.
Europe when we toured earlier this year, and AV had or bought a game called what was it like magical unicorns or something like that,
Oh,
and it's a card game
nice.
that
Oh, right
you
on.
play like a and so I actually
Follow the
haven't.
links below.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, it was like, I mean, it's basically
Background.
like Yu-Gi-Oh or Magic the Gathering or something like that, but
Right?
in with like cute little unicorn drawings, and it was super fun. Like relatively complex, but not enough that you can't do it after a couple of beers. And like there were a couple nights when we were just playing this game and like getting really hyped up about it. And
Right,
but
right.
I haven't
That's
played it
awesome.
since that tour because I don't have it. I think it
Ah,
went home with one of us and it wasn't me.
so there you go, friends and fans. We need a Magic Unicorn card games.
Yeah, that wasn't it, but it's something like that. You can probably find it with a Google
Yeah,
search.
we'll find out for sure. That's sort of that triggers something I was curious people might want to know. If you guys have a day off touring, like what it's everybody's go to. Obviously, sleeping is a big one. We know for Adrian, it's not talking to anybody because, like your past tour, she sang for the opener and the headliner. I don't think I've ever seen a vocalist do that from my memory, anyway. So here's to that. Do you
Yeah.
guys have stuff like what do you like to do? Obviously, if you have a day off or do you schedule stuff like that? I know the app you're talking about, you can probably be like, hey, we want to go see the largest pair of socks in the world when we stop in
Yeah.
Indiana.
Yeah, so surprisingly, it really depends on the routing because usually those off days are travel days.
Right, sure.
So we're in the vehicle. We last time we were driving like from Arizona or something up to like Seattle or Portland or something like that. And so we were watching like Disney movies and just hanging out and like we watched
Nice.
Aladdin or so it depends. Usually it's either that or like on the off chance we like get to stay somewhere for a day and have a hotel and hit the pool or something like that. That's always nice. So um it depends where we are, what we're doing, and how everybody's feeling. Like we don't all like always hang out each day when we
Sure.
don't have to either as well. So like
Right.
some people might go into town in Seattle and some might stay at the hotel or different
Cool.
things.
That's cool. Yeah. Again, it's well, just kind of what normal people do. We're just normal people
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
living the
but one day
dream.
we had an off day on a long drive in between shows, and we ended up, I think, in Lincoln, Nebraska. And Omnium Gatherum had a headline show on that off day of their own. So
Oh,
they played
wow.
like a show there, and we went to go see their headline show on the off day, and that was
Right,
super
right.
fun.
Yeah, that is cool. Here's something I wanted to just throw at you. Speaking of music, do you have like a guilty pleasure band? Like people would be like, "Wow, he likes that band," or seen that band live. Like, are you kind of, as you say, on brand? Like, I could probably name the 10 bands you typically listen to or like, but do you have something that's like, what's that? I might be interested
Yeah,
in something
I
off.
don't have any guilty pleasures because the things that I like to listen to, I think are good. So
Hmm.
feel no guilt about this
Right,
whatsoever. But
sure, sure.
um, I am a big Phil Collins fan,
Right
actually.
on.
And I learned this from my mom. She was like a huge Genesis Phil Collins fan. And so
Right
like if
on.
I had like one thing that people might not know, it's probably that. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, like uh, I remember listening to him, but seeing him sing and play drums was like, wow, that's
yeah.
like maybe not a huge fan musically, but seeing that and being like, wow, that's pretty crazy. And then like Mastodon, their drummer, like he sings some of their more uh popular songs that you see him playing and singing, it's like, that's crazy. Like that's like next level drummer stuff. And then I'm kind of
Yeah.
like, he can play drums and sing, and all your singer has to do is sing. Like, you should sing a lot better than the drummer, you know? But it's funny. I don't know. That's a weird observation from my end, but very, very cool to know that. I'll double back on some early Genesis because I easily get burned out. I don't know if you do, but like, you don't want to hear the A side songs because literally you turn on any radio or station and you get the A sides, but the B side stuff you can dig into and be like, oh, that's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
something I've heard, you know. Uh, cool, man, very cool. So let's see here. What would you like to do next? We have still just so many, so many things. Here we've hit roughly like six, so we've maybe done a third
Okay.
ultimately of what's happening. um
Damn.
we can either so a couple things how you want to do it. We can sort of focus a little bit, double back and say there are some guitar specific kind of nerdy questions. There's people still have more mixing and mastering, more maybe nerdy tech stuff, but some of the things you sort of answered multiple people's questions. I do apologize if we don't name drop you. You're still in the running for the giveaways, but several people asked mixing and writing questions, so they sort of all get answered together. Holly
Cool.
specifically asked some mixing and writing questions that you sort of covered. So I'm doing my best to consolidate things. I mean, she wants to know what your favorite cereal is as well. Holly does. So,
Ooh,
uh, go-to
interesting.
cereal. What's your go-to cereal?
That's a tough one. I've been really digging lately this keto granola that you can get from Costco. That's like, it's like sliced almonds and blueberry, like dried blueberries
Right,
and these
right.
kind of
So
things. Like that kind of. So that's probably the only cereal I've really eaten in recent memory.
yeah, I'll throw this out because it pertains to like today, this morning, like 2 o'clock. I had Reese's peanut butter bunny cereal.
What?
Yeah, it was just given to us. Someone had a bunch of cereals, like, you want something? So I'm like, looking at the ingredients, make sure it doesn't have stuff I don't want. And I was like, this is Reese's, and it's got only plant stuff. I'm down. Oh yeah, I had some. It was about 132, and it's amazing. It's you can't go wrong with some vanilla almond milk and Reese's cereal. It's peanut butter
Absolutely.
and chocolate and milk. It's yummy. Almond milk, sorry, but very good. I like that. That's a good question. But literally, as long as it's a cereal that's good, life cereal is good. I eat that. I mean, hot cereal is good. Your oatmeals and your cream of wheat stuff. They get a bad rap because there's not commercials. Oh, God bless you.
First sneeze.
You don't you know you don't get the Sneeze-Its, the Cheez-Its with the hot cereals like you do. I mean, Quaker's pretty much running the gambit. Let's be real. They're like the
Mhm.
Paz of oats. There's one company running the oat game, and it's Quaker. So you don't question the Quaker. But the store brand's literally the exact same and cheaper. So we like to be frugal in these parts here.
Yeah.
So good cereal question. Complete
Thank you, Holly.
complete nonsense answers. You're welcome, Holly, for that complete waste of brain cells and time you can't get back. But it was a good question. I like that. And Jack's now questioning his whole agreeing to do this process. At this point, I could literally be doing anything else but answering these questions. Sorry, I should have done. In Jack's head, I could literally be doing anything except answering these questions.
Nah.
But real quick, you do have a DM from Sarah to Arba. Sarah to Arba wants to know what's happening. Just sent a DM. It might be in your hidden requests though. So Jack has
Oh,
directed at
this
you.
was the bot. This is the bot question. Like, yeah, just because I get a lot of those. What's happening? Just sent you a DM. Like, why would you
Uh,
drop a comment telling me that you sent me a DM? Like, that's a bot.
well, uh, hold on. You just said you're terrible with answering messages.
And
So,
people who know me know that. Like,
and the bot knows that too. So, besides
now they do.
taking over the world and our little stream video Q&A here, Thirsty Thursday, grounds and sounds and sounds and grounds. The bots have taken over. So, but still, you never know.
Yeah.
It could
Well,
be that agent that's booking Vakken this year and just wants to make sure you know what's up and what's happening and answer those DMs, Mr. Kosto, because you never
excellent.
know.
I'm sure that that's how that works. Is that those people get in touch with individual band members via Instagram DM.
Hey, um,
I've been doing it wrong this whole time.
man, I'm not trying to brag or give people ideas, but the DMs on Instagram is not a terrible thing. But you have to be legit. Okay, yeah, a bot, a fan. That's not how you contact somebody. But it sometimes works. I mean, hey, not for nothing, but sometimes works.
Yeah.
We'll
You'll
leave
just
it at
have to
that.
get through my skepticism.
Right, right. Yes, you have to break that barrier and say, not a bot. Oh, on that note, let me take a sip of my bev here. I'm getting. Mm. I mean, this is fun, man. I have to thank you for agreeing to do this and making something hopefully cool that is entertaining to people. I know the focus of most people drifts after a bit, but I mean, it doesn't feel like an hour and a half, whatnot to me.
Yeah,
So
not at all. I mean, my voice is starting to feel it, but that's the only
right.
thing, from
So
laughing and stuff.
I mean, if you want to take a break, we can certainly split this into two parts. Like I can, because for one, make sure technology works and we can save our session. And then we can, like, you want to split it up. Like we still have uh, tons of guitar questions, which I'm totally fine uh, jumping into some. I know again you covered a lot, but there are question, more nerdy, buildy tech stuff that I don't want to jump super deep in, but we can definitely address a little bit. Um, and more gear questions. I know we were speaking previously about sounds and tones and how you get certain things, and I want to jump into like the evolution. Like I saw you guys live. I was lucky enough to see the last show of Elevete tour in Richmond, Virginia, my hometown. Shout out to the RVA. Thank you for playing here because nobody plays Virginia and it's a bummer. But I get it, it's Virginia. Um, but your live sound and seeing the stage, and it's like there's no wall of fill in the blank Marshalls, Mesas, EVH, the new metal stand. Like the sounds you're getting live on a fan perspective and a musician was like, why is there no amps here? And I'm granted old. Okay. So yes, I know there's modeling and all these things, but live, I always felt like that stack pushing air at you as a guitar player, particularly, um, gave more inspiration. But seeing you live and hearing the sound coming, not hearing a stage sound, which as a musician, it's like, well, what's happening on stage? Not so concerned for me, but hearing out front, the front of house stuff and not seeing some kind of tube thing was like amazing to me. And so I kind of started like picking your brain a little bit, like, hey, like, what do you think about
You're
this and that?
learning.
Yeah, like you said, literally, I never want to stop learning about anything that is interesting to me, uh, whether it's one of my company, something I do, or whatever. Um, but there are questions other people as well. So maybe our second part we can sort of focus, because about half of the questions left are very uh techie, instrument geary sort of questions. Gear related. Geary, is that a word? It is now. You're welcome, Webster's. The subject matter can be more of that. So maybe for folks that, okay, well, we want to watch the dumb stuff, or we want to watch maybe the techie stuff with a hint, just a skosh of dumb with it, from my perspective, from my input anyway. We can do that. Maybe, does that make sense? Or how do
Yeah,
you
that
want to
sounds
roll?
good.
Cool.
I think that's cool. Yeah, I'd love to just keep going, finishing it all up,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah,
then
yeah,
we can
yeah.
chop it up in post.
Oh, so
Um,
just keep this and be like, we'll be right back. Okay.
yeah,
Oh,
cool.
chop it up in post. What's the app on my Pixel phone that's gonna edit all this? I don't know. It's a freebie, so
Okay.
I'd have to. Man, I started out day one building Apple computers. The beige Macs back in the day, like I was a kid. My dad got me into computers very early. Always was a huge Mac fan. I have all the books and documentaries on Jobs and stuff, but I've got to the point. It's like I've lost faith in the company. I mean, Steve
Mhm.
Jobs was. I know things are in place that he sort of foresaw, but there's a lot of stuff on the Android side that's like cool and better, and they just don't have the marketing. Like it's not Apple. But I saw Apple's talking about buying Disney. That's insane. Like, yeah, Google that. Google Apple and Disney, because
I don't even want to know.
well, Apple slash Steve Jobs, who will always be Apple to me. Him and Bob Iger were friends back in the day, and uh, the whole Pixar thing came from Steve Jobs helping get George Lucas out of some financial ish blah blah blahs, and then his relationship moving forward with Disney, and Disney purchasing Pixar was a whole cool thing if you're into the lore of the Disney saga. Um, but a recent interview, they brought Bob back in to run Disney CEO, and he's like, "Yeah, if Steve Jobs was alive, Disney and Apple would be like a thing, like heavy." And if you think about it, it's like the next step. I mean, Apple's like, I, between them and Amazon, I think they go back and forth, but it's like trillions of dollar company, like 432 million zeros after a three is their value. And so it just makes sense. But it's like, well, you want to watch any Marvel stuff? Guess what? You got to buy an Apple product. Like, oh, okay, but yeah, what are you gonna do? So either Amazon or Apple is gonna buy Disney. That's just in the cards. You heard it here first on Sound Ground.
All right.
and that's where you're supposed to eat your Cheez-Its and kick back and have a little
Oh
sip of
yeah,
water and
yeah. I wish I had
so
another coffee. That's the big downer right now.
you know what? We should have thought this ahead, where I go like this. I go
Yeah,
boop,
yes.
and then you're like, here it is. Yeah.
uh,
I think I'm still running on the first 13 cups I had this morning. So,
nice.
well, cool, everybody. Welcome back to our first part, 2.5, two and a
Welcome
third
back to the
D.
next part.
The part that never ended and never ceased to begin, as they say. That sounds
Never cease to begin.
well. It can't cease to begin, really. I mean,
I guess. Huh.
honestly, I think that's something we would need Adrian's input on.
Yeah, after the cereal question, my brain's just fried. So
our character Solvig is now going to experience a ceasing to beginning in the story. Sweet. Okay, cool. So we're gonna just, I don't want to say skim, but we're gonna hit a few of these guitar heavy questions. Oh, let's do another giveaway. Perfect segue. We have some fun stuff. I love giving. Giving is the thing. So we have some shirts, kind of wonky sizes, like extra extra small and 13x large. So hopefully you'll fall in one of those categories if you want a shirt. We also got the dope slouch beanies. Anyone that follows the band, I feel so honored to click on a picture. It's like, hey, they're in Germany, and look, they're wearing their beanie. That's so
Yeah.
awesome.
It
And
was cold over there, man.
and hoodies. There's hoodies here too. If somebody really is like, man, I would really like a hoodie. Winter's coming. So, and we do have a dropping science on everyone. We got a mad cool special right now. A combo for winter, which is coming, is a hoodie and beanies. You're basically getting a free beanie if you get the hoodie at blackheartguitars.com. Check it out. And
Nice.
also check out Seven Spires at
Oh, sevenspiresband.com.
yeah, sorry. So answer this, if I'm sure you've answered this a million times, but I haven't seen it. So what's the story with the name Seven Spires? And do you get people tired of saying, well, there's only 4 spires? Who's the other 3?
Yeah, that's like one of those jokes where like, oh, I never heard that one before.
I would like to be 7. If there's an opening, I'll slide that
uh,
resume into the DMs and check it out.
yeah. So the real story with the name, like we're still trying to come up with a cool story, like a completely made up cool story. But
Right?
the actual story is that, we at some point we had a band, but we needed a band name, and so we had a list of just things that sounded cool, and that was the one that stuck, that sounded the least
Right?
lame and seemed to fit, and here
Who
we are.
whose suggestion was it? Like, do you know who wrote it down out of the band?
I don't know. It definitely was before we had Pete or Chris, so it wasn't one of
Oh,
them.
right on.
But it could have even been like one of the old, like, original members that weren't in the band very long. Like it could
Well,
have been
thank
anybody.
you.
I mean, it could have been one of
Whoever it
our
was.
moms, you know. It could have been AI generated, like on Mid Journey or whatever.
Sure, right. The bot picked that from the future. It was like, well, you have to name the band this
Yeah,
because
Skynet is evolving.
right, yeah, because it ultimately is the compass that Skynet uses to take over not just Earth but the universe. So that's cool.
uh,
It doesn't have a everybody out there still managing to watch and be entertained. Submit what
yeah,
it means to you. Like, what do you think, Seven Spires? We want your cool
yeah,
story.
yeah. That's a great thing. That I sort of on that note, I had a class in school with James Taylor's brother, actually Livingston Taylor, and he was always talking about like interacting with fans and philosophies on performing live and all this stuff. Really, really genius person when it comes to being a performer.
Right,
Um,
sure.
but he would always say that when people would ask him, what does this song mean, or what does that lyric mean, he would always ask them, well, what does it mean to you? What do you think it means? And they would tell him, that I think it means this or that, and he would say, you're exactly right.
Yeah. That's the beauty of ambiguity with art. Um, it really should mean something different to everybody. Uh, Even being specific with the story that Spires is telling, there's enough information for you to kind of get again a baseline, like this is what's happening,
Yeah,
but then it
there's some
triggers
semblance of a canon.
right, yeah. Artist terms versus goofy guy listening terms, so that triggers like things happening, like there's probably some fan fiction out there telling stories that people were inspired. It's like, well, what would happen if this particular character had this interaction? That's really where I think a role playing game definitely needs to happen.
Yeah.
Jen, my friend Jen, if you're watching or listening, we need a game happening soon with my friends we can talk about. One of my friends, artists, she works for probably one of the most major video game companies. I don't want to say. I'll ask her if we can drop in the comments Jen's company she works for.
Or we could have her on if enough people watch this. We could, we'll get Adrian on
You
and
know,
then get her on and talk video games.
yeah, man. That's the beauty of this between you and I, the network of things that are interactive that can like mesh together. I don't know what to do with my hands when I'm talking. Um, it's awesome, and the one thing with everybody that's connected, whether it's my side, if it's uh, something with rescue or animals or nonprofit or music or coffee, everything has the hint of metal, of community. I love that there's a huge cats and metal community on Facebook. It's so awesome because people are like animals, cats, blah blah, and it's like, well, there's nothing more metal than cats. So
Yeah.
it's cool. I'm like, oh, I'm not the outcast that has this weird thing with thinking stuff is metal. That's not. It actually is to a lot of people. But yeah, so like my artists that create and manage video game departments or metalheads and punk rockers and hardcore musicians, and it's across the board. That's like the unifying again community is metal, and I think everybody like feels that more so than any other genre of music. Um, not to be again bringing it down and sad, but it's cool. It's unfortunate that a lot more communities aren't like that, but I'm glad to be a part of it. And again, thank you for the art that you make that's inspirational, and for doing this lovely little experiment that we had today. So good
Of
segue
course.
into
I'm having a lot of fun.
to keeping things rolling. So to touch on a few of we could let me sort of mix up what's still remaining. We're about halfway through at this point.
Woohoo.
Um
I'll try
and
to be a little more precise with my
well,
nerd answers.
again, people can fast forward or they can watch this whole thing and be like, wow, this is really something. Because like we talked about before, it's like I just don't want to have something that I've seen before. And I'm sure two freaking metal dudes talking about stuff is out there.
Talking about cereal.
That cereal, socks, and breakfast restaurants and coffee
Mhm.
and guitars and all of that, I think is different.
I
you
would
know,
say so.
so maybe it's a good recipe here, maybe not. But concerning creating an inspiration, I think that's really a good subject for this next little or not so little portion. Um, real quick, I do still have some stuff from Holly as a carryover. Thank you, Holly, for submitting multiple questions. Um, you personally, how many other bands are you involved with as far as mixing, writing, or recording guitar with?
uh Recording guitar with very few at the moment. It's really just Spires. I do session work here and there for friends like under the table. Like if they need rhythm guitars done for something, I'll just do it and they'll kick me a few bucks. But as far as like actually being the guitar player, it's pretty much just Spires.
Right,
Um,
right.
mixing mixing is like, people come and go out the door and hopefully return eventually. So it's hard to put a real number on that, but I've probably done 10 to 15 records in the last couple of years with
Wow,
various different bands,
that's
including my
awesome.
own. Yeah,
Very cool.
it's
And
really great. And I hope to do more. I'm moving my next sort of phase in the studio life is going to be I'm putting together a mobile rig so that I can fly to people and do
ooh,
full productions, like
wow,
record a full drum kit, record a live band, this kind of thing. So
that's great. So real quick, if a band or a artist is interested in contacting you, what's the best way to for serious inquiries? What's your business contact for any band artist that wants to hire you for your primo services?
Yeah, the best way to get in touch with me for audio stuff is costoaudio@gmail.com. That's
Look at
Kosto audio, no spaces, no capitals, at gmail.com. And
Cool.
that's kind of where I run everything through.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hear some of the stuff you posted, snippets on the interwebs, on the socials of the non-metal stuff. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. That I just finished up that EP. It came out really awesome. I'm super proud of it.
cool. The band's already received it. Are they? What's their reaction?
I'm still waiting to make sure there are no
Ah,
last minute tweaks or anything, but
gotcha.
essentially it's done.
The perfectionist arrives on set, as predicted. But it's good.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I'll get a call in like 3 months, like, hey, can we turn the hi hat up on track 3?
it's like, yeah, go to the EQ that you're playing back and go to like 5K and just bring it up. There you go. Or whatever. I don't know. That's probably
Uh,
close. I don't know what hi hats exact frequency.
Depends
What
on the hi hat.
right? What kind of like sociopath knows what frequency a hi hat peaks at?
Hey.
What? Sorry, I keep forgetting the quote, man. What kind of sociopath? I don't know.
Uh,
Jack knows anybody. Not even
Sometimes.
that.
If you give me a hi hat to listen to, I can tell you approximately.
So Jack, if you didn't know, is what and I say this in post, what I consider a prodigy. The age that he went to Berkeley, right, or
Oh, yeah.
Boston. Your background. Um,
Yeah. I don't know if I would go that far, but I
that's
certainly was
okay.
young at the time.
I went there. It's fine. You don't have to. You know, in that conversation with people, it's like this dude was like, he's here and was here and is now there. If that makes any sense, but um, you're getting someone that just has a natural thing happening, and it's cool. And what that means is engineering, mixing, uh, musicianship. Um, Speaking of musicianship, that kind of can tie in a little bit here. Um, there's a part, and I talked to you about this before. At the end of Lightbringer, I was listening through headphones, and there's Adrian's like layering, and you just hear this kind of like march, and then you listen through headphones, and you hear this like you hear these crazy like
Yeah,
things
there's
happening.
sweeps like in the background,
Right,
crazy
right.
sweeps.
And let's fill people in. Maybe they are interested to the answers. Like Jack, what's the deal? Like that stuff is there, and it's sort of like I don't want to say hidden, but it's very obscure, like noises that I kept going back. Like, am I hearing what I'm hearing? But like, what was the whole process like there? Like what were you thinking, man? Like that needs to be out
Yeah,
front.
I mean, what I thought needed to go. Some of my bandmates might disagree by how in the background it is, but what my thought process was with that part is that that's a very poppy song, like very dance, like four on the
Right,
floor kind
right,
of
sure.
driven thing. And in that kind of music, like you often hear in more intense part like arpeggiated synths, like these like
Oh, sure.
things.
Right, right.
So I wanted to do that, but on guitar. And so I have these crazy fast sweeps going on, but as a texture thing in the background, just to kind of ramp up the intensity and not as like a guitar solo.
Right, right.
And so maybe that's not the right decision. It would depend on who you ask, but
Right.
that was
Yeah.
my inspiration, at least, is those kind of like arpeggio synth lines from.
Sure. And I mean that's really the thing of like your ego is here, and what people probably might expect is, well, not here but here, but speaking of pop music, you have like, you know, Nita Strauss playing with like Demi Lovato, and you have Nino Betancourt from back in the day playing with Rihanna. So
Mhm.
everybody's like, man, shredders need to be in pop music. Like, yeah, shredders need to be everywhere. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I have
like
a buddy who I actually used to play in a like a church band. I got hired to play guitar for
like a
I don't
satanic
even know
church.
what denomination or whatever, but like a little bit south of Boston. And there were a couple of guitar players in this band, and I don't know if I can really name drop, so I don't want to name drop him here. But a friend of mine who is also a Berkeley cat, and
Yeah,
he's playing with Doja Cat right now, like doing like
right.
serious, like
Yeah,
shreddy, really hard rock guitar playing with Doja Cat at like Lollapalooza or
that's amazing. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and
guitar
killer
shredders.
player.
Yeah, guitar shredders are the new bots. They're taking over. So anyone out there, pop music, R&B, hip hop. I would even say you can make a country song better if there's like a shredder, maybe on a banjo. Can you do
All
sweeps on
the
a
dude, all
banjo?
this like country, like the pop country stuff coming out of Nashville, like all
Yeah.
of those backing bands are metalheads. They're like,
Right, right. Well,
like
that's what
you
metalheads
hear it
do.
too.
When they get old, they either do punk rock, which respect, but it's metal with a little less tuning and less distortion, or they're doing country. It's like that sort of natural progression from, like, if you're into like motorcycle and the bike world, which I sort of came from. It's like Harley guys become Honda guys at a certain point. Not that either one are good or bad, but it's like a transition. When you're tired of the thing overheating and leaking and being in a garage band that plays for 8 people, and you still are decent, you want the next thing, and that's like the Goldwing kind of thing
Yeah.
instead of
And
like
I'm sure
a
like
bagger.
doing country like that pays the bills a lot better than,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
metal does
I
nowadays.
I have a distant cousin that's a guitar tech for some country guy. I don't know. Like country to me was like George Strait, George Jones, Willie Nelson, those super old school, like, I would think it's like almost punk country.
Mhm.
It's just kind of like a salt of the earth, so to speak, kind of thing. And it reminds me of a lot of metal stuff that's like has this grit to it. I just can't stand a country guy wearing a backwards baseball hat, if I could say that. That's not country, bro. Anyway, uh nobody cares. Nobody's gonna listen to what I'm saying. And then I'll get an email from my cousin that's with, like, I don't know, Travis Tritt, or be like, dude, come on, man. You know I'm his roadie, right? I'm his guitar tech. I don't know if that's a thing. The guitar, speaking of Nashville, some of the most amazing musicians are in Nashville. Session guys in Nashville, anything, they can play anything, and they don't care. It's just like you
Yeah,
want a hit
yeah.
song written, bang. You want a jingle for a commercial, bang. You want the intro song for Scooby Doo, which the guys from Nashville, boom, does it. So there's so much like magical musician wise stuff in Nashville. So definitely not a knock. It's just the flavor of the month is the pop hillbilly thing, but it's
Yeah,
fine. It'll
yeah. And
change.
there's, a lot of people really like it, and I have
Yeah,
nothing
yeah,
bad
yeah,
to
yeah.
say against it if people are enjoying it. It's
Yeah,
just
and get more shredders in the music, and then I'll be like, all right, let's go. And
yeah, I
our
mean
old
there's the
ladies
oh yeah, we finally got a cat in the
visiting.
frame.
Yeah, that's my in-house office grumpy cat. She has to stay in my office by herself because she literally just hates everyone. That's why she's in here with me today. So uh,
That's nice.
we're we're moving right along. Um, there's there's so many things. Inspiration, that seems like a good segue here. It's funny, all this stuff is sort of flowing. I'm surprised that
Yeah,
it is,
you're
because
doing a good job
uh,
with connecting all the dots.
yeah, part of the reason why I was eating Reese's peanut butter cereal at 2 in the morning was like, not afraid, but it's like the anxiety, like this is going to be something, or it's going to be a really bad something. But I'm so
Maybe
thankful, man.
it's gonna
Thanks
be a
again.
neutral something.
It could be a very neutral something. Yes, it could be an over the top, in the middle taupe thing that we can have going on. That's a good word. Use that word twice now in 2 days. Um, but it's inspiring. So Okay, we're going back to Holly, and she's got really good questions. So thank you again for all of these meaningful, insightful questions. Is uh, Jack, have you ever encountered artists who have created art, paintings, music, poetry, etc., inspired by Seven Spires band?
Yeah, actually, like a lot of we have blessed to have a lot of very artistic fans, and some people are making, like painting or drawing things based on songs or stories, or some people are drawing us. Yeah, again, I don't know who wants me to name drop or what, but actually quite a lot, and it's really cool. I love seeing it when it happens.
Right. Um, I'll name drop what I saw recently is Shield of Wings doing the acapella version of one of your songs. You know what I'm talking about? Have you seen
Yeah,
that?
I know them. I didn't know they did one of our songs.
Yeah, I think it was them. I might have to double check
I know
that.
they do those like the choir sort of
Right, right, right,
arrangements
right.
things.
Yeah,
I think I saw one they did for like maybe it was like Elaine or Eileen or one of those things. I can't remember
oh, right,
now.
right.
But I definitely saw some of that. But I link me to if they
I
did one
will.
of ours.
I'll double check, make sure, but it'll be down in the comments. People can see. It was like really good.
I probably
It
I've already seen it and just forgot that I've seen it, and then I'll see it again and be like,
right,
oh, that thing.
right. Uh, all things being equal, I'm sitting there and being like, it's good, but like Adrian is so much better, and it's just her, you know. But people have covered your songs. Like I saw Succumb. There was a recent cover of that from another band. Like
Oh yeah,
that's
from
pretty
Lords
cool.
of the Trident. I mixed
Yeah,
that
yeah.
one actually.
Oh, well, there you go. He,
Yeah.
he, he mixed it. So very cool. I got my screens are like switched. That's why I keep doing no, I keep doing that when I'm supposed to be doing that. It's fine. I don't know. At this point, I've had I had a little slurm for the Futurama fans out
That's
there.
great.
Uh, awesome. There's a new season coming out of that. I'm ecstatic. I'm like, I've died and gone to like adult nerd heaven. There's a new Futurama coming out. I think Simpsons is in its 816 millionth season. D&D is popular. Shredders are on country albums. The world's just falling apart,
It's all
but it's
coming
cool.
together.
Or all coming together right. It's perspective is everything. But so yeah, speaking of inspiration and how it affects things, uh, I'll tie this into the guitar stuff with some of the questions. Is okay. This is from Daniel. Sorry, my glasses are wonky. Daniel River Oath. The rest of these are from Instagram submissions, I believe. And oh, let's all do our cat shit. I know my spine's compressed at this point. Wow, was that a crack? Did you
That was my sternum. Yeah.
right here? You heard it first. Let's sample Jack's sternum cracking like he's
Yeah, we'll do like the
900 years
twisted T
old.
snare with with my
Nice.
sternum
Yeah.
crack.
And it's still better than Lars's snare on Saint Anger. You're welcome for that.
Everybody picks on Lars, man. He just had a grindcore snare on the wrong kind of album.
Right. I mean, the whole band should have done like insalubrious, just like carcass sounding Metallica album. That would have been so sick. Just playing through the little Marshall headset amp, like and all the drums are like kegs. Although I guess Slipknot sort of owns that sound, but they could have really run with it.
Yeah. Oh well.
But it's cool. Whatever. They're
I'm sure they're
bazillionaires.
doing fine in spite of that.
Right. Yeah. I guess those guys are okay. Speaking of gear, though, it's funny seeing that old knockoff. It's like a Court bolt-on V that James has.
The
It
white
has
one, yeah.
right, right, like OGV or whatever I think he calls it. And being like, wow, even when I was a kid, I was like, oh, that's a Gibson. I gotta have a Gibson. I think my first guitar, and you sort of hit on this, but it would be cool to see how you your take on it. So my first guitar was like a crappy Strat copy, but I was really into Tears for Fears. So there's your like guilty pleasure, like old school songs from the Big Chair Choir. I don't even know. But like they're all playing like Strat, like Roy's playing like a Strat or whatever, and or Roland, sorry, Roland. So my parents were like, "Oh, get him a this guitar," and it was like a Harmony. It was not like a Fender Strat. But then also, like my older brother was into the metal part of it and getting like a Kramer Striker, and like a PV Bandit, and just like, and he had like the DoD metal pedal. Like we couldn't afford the HM2, the Boss. I only think we had to go with the DoD. But seeing that, and then like listening to bands like Metallica and stuff, and saying, "Oh, I gotta have a Gibson." Like that's a Gibson. Like this thing I'm playing is like a Strat. This like doesn't look right and everything. And I got like, this is probably 2 years later for Christmas. They got me like an Epiphone Explorer, and I was like the coolest kid in like 3 cities. It's like you got like that guitar, and it was wonky. I mean, it had a Fender tremolo. I'm like, what are you guys thinking? And like the body is smaller, but still is the shape. And nothing beats being a, I don't know, 11-year-old kid or whatever, and trying to learn how to play like Master of Puppets, and you've got an Explorer. And then,
Yeah.
years later, you're like, that was like an ESP. And my first V is like not even, a Gibson. They're not even Epiphone, is a bolt-on thing. But the fact that that's like his thing, and he gets inspired with that thing, bringing it back to you, like your first guitar, you got it because it looked cool, and how many ridiculous songs have come out of that guitar. Even still, like you probably can set down on that guitar, and because it's that comfort thing, it like takes your mind, and like you probably can still come up with crazy um, stuff from that guitar because it's inspiring to you, because of, well, this is the first cool guitar I saw. It had snake skin and fire and armor and lightning.
So I have to clarify here. So my very first guitar was like a first
Oh,
act Walmart guitar that came
right,
with like
right,
a
right.
shitty
Sure,
amp and
sure.
stuff, and that's where I like kind of, before I got serious about playing. But
Right,
then
right,
when I actually got serious, I got that Dean ML,
right.
the
The
the really
Dean.
cheap one,
Yeah.
and that one I don't think I have it anymore, but what I definitely know is that I broke it, because I tried to scallop the neck at one point when
Oh,
I had gotten, like better guitars, and I was just like, I wonder if I could do this. Like that sounds interesting, because I
right.
never play this thing anymore. And so I took like a file out in my garage and just
Uh,
like started going to town on this thing, and I took away so much of the wood that the neck wasn't possible to get straight anymore, and also
right.
because the truss rod
Yeah,
basically wasn't
it's like
functional because it was $100
there.
guitar anyway.
Right.
So yeah,
Mm.
I broke that guitar. It's not playable anymore, and I think I threw it out actually because it
Oh,
just,
that's sad.
like, the neck looked like a banana. Like it was just impossible
Right.
to. But it never played well. Like all the hardware was like sharp. You could cut yourself on
Right.
everything.
Oh, that's metal
But the
though.
the
I mean,
shape was super cool. But where I went from there, so I that was that $100 Dean ML that I played for years, and then the next guitar I got was the Dean MAB1 Armor Flame, the Michelangelo Badio
Right.
signature, like
Right.
6 string one with the EMGs, and like that was like a pro guitar, and I
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think the battery wiring on that is like got pulled loose or something, so it needs
Mm,
to be like resoldered or whatever to
right.
actually work. But I still have that one. I love that. And then I
Weird.
played the 7 string version of it for years. And then
Right.
so
Oh,
yeah,
so
that was the journey.
so it was a 6 string first.
Yeah, way
Oh,
a long time
okay,
ago.
okay. That's cool. I just assumed it was the seven that you have. So that's a good segue. Like, what was your like the awakening of sevens? Like for me, I found somehow one of the first UV77 green that they only made like 300 of, and when I
Whoa.
played in like a garage band when I was like 18, 19, like I had saved up a whole year. Thoroughbred Music, which was in like Florida, like Central Florida. They used to put out a catalog, and as a nerdy guitar techie kid, like I always got that catalog. This is before Musician's Friend and all that. Like Thoroughbred was like the
Yeah.
place you got all this stuff, and I had the catalog. I've got it somewhere in storage still, and they had all the universes, like, and they had the green one, and I just was like drawn to that. Like, what is this thing? And I would call them, and as a kid, so this was probably like 16 or so, 15, 16. I couldn't even drive, but I'd call them and be like, "Hey, do you have that green Ibanez, whatever?" And the guy would be like, "Yeah, we've got one here. It's at the time 2,500, something crazy, whatever." So that went on for a while. I'd call them like every couple of months and be like, "Do you still have it?" They're like, "Yeah." "Did you call about this like last month?" "No, no, I got your catalog I was looking at." And fast forward 2 years later, I called them, and the guy's like, "We have one left. We need to get rid of it. Like, it's $1,000 shipped wherever you're at. It's $1,000." And I was just like, $1,000? Like, that's doable. I have like bikes and skateboards and video games, and I have this weird Epiphone knockoff like Explorer. Like, I've got all this stuff. I was like, I could sell this and get it. And I got like halfway there, and my parents, like, I just nagged them. So kids, if you're out there, just nag your parents. At some point, they're gonna get you what you want, and it worked. And like, it was close to my birthday, and I had like 500, and my parents were just like my mom was like, "This is your birthday. This is Christmas. This is next year's birthday and Christmas, and probably more after that." And they're like, "Do not. This is it. This is done." And they did. They paid the other five, and I got it, and I had it for a couple years, and it was just like that's like the unicorn. I was looking at that question, and I was like, "Are you done a unicorn?" It's like the Eleanor. It's like that guitar was like, nobody had seven strings when I was that age. They didn't even make the guitar; it had been discontinued. And to have it in like kind of a droppy tuned, I don't know, we were sort of a mixture of like COC and Entombed and just whatever we listened to, we like wrote stuff. But to have that guitar, and I didn't even tune it like to B, because our songs were in like C or something. So I had to like tune it up, and like it was weird. But I don't have it anymore. Sad story, but I'm always
Ah,
like,
no.
they're in the ridiculous 5 to 10,000 range for like a beat up one. So I had a buddy that played guitar also, and we were like gearheads, and we would like swap and trade stuff back and forth. And he ended up getting it, and I never got it back. This is, crazy long time ago, you know. But yeah, just one of those things. Like, man, like every day, like looking on eBay, looking on Reverbs, there's someone on Facebook marketplace in Idaho that has one and doesn't realize it's worth like two Hyundai Sonatas. It's like looking for that, but it's like that seven string always stuck with me, and it like was part of, like, as a company now, like I prefer to make seven strings over even over eight strings and stuff. It's definitely a niche market. Some of the bands I listen to now all of a sudden have like seven string stuff. Like, wow, that sounds so much better. Like, eights are cool. There's a place for the eight, but you can't play thrashy fast. Like a seven is kind of where it's at, to me anyway. And also for symphonic stuff, like what you do. But what was your like half hour later after that dumb little prelude of mine? What people want to know is like, Jack, what's your connection with seven? Like, do you have a shareable moment where it kind of went off, or was it just like, oh, it's a seven string?
Yeah, so the seven string thing. So I mentioned a little bit ago that my first like real pro level guitar was that Dean MAB1 Armor Flame um six string that
Right,
was like the coolest thing ever. When it, EMG pickup system, original Floyd Rose, like all the good stuff.
right.
um and eventually I was at Berkeley. I was like a year and a half into my Berkeley career, I think. And I remember seeing Dean came out with a seven string version of that guitar. Um, and the paint job was so cool. Like it was that
Right.
other one had like silver flames that were like medieval armor.
Right. Sure.
You know that I don't know if you can Google it.
Yeah. No, it's
But
cool.
then this one
It's a cool
had
finish.
a little bit of that, like some tribal armor, but then the orange flames, like proper
Right.
NASCAR, like really cool.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is so cool, but like I don't know if I could play a seven string. Like that's just kind of weird. Um, but I was like, okay, this is so cool. Like that, I want that guitar. Let me get this thing. And I that just happened to be around the time that I met Adrian as well. And she was writing a lot of stuff in drop C, like
Sure. Right. Right.
two down and stuff. And because I was going to school, I always had to have a guitar in standard tuning. But metal, I want to play low tune stuff. So the
Of
seven string
course.
made a lot of
Right.
sense because I could keep it in standard tuning and still go to all my classes, but play down to B and play,
Sure.
tune super low. So that was the guitar that I ended up bringing to school for ages, and then writing a lot of the original Spires stuff on.
Right.
And I just got so comfortable with it. And now it's hard to go back because you get all the low range, but you get to keep the high range.
Right.
Um,
Sure.
and there's other cool things, like you can play a 3 octave 3 note per string scale in basically one position, going from the seventh string to the highest string, and it's like it's just so convenient. I think it's really the sweet spot for me.
Right.
um
Right.
yeah,
Cool.
it's great.
I agree. Like everything should be at least on a seven string in my mind. Like
Yeah, it freaks
everything.
people out because they're like, I can barely play a six string. Like, what is it's so different. And like, yeah, if you pick it up for the first time, it feels pretty different. Like, there's a lot of, but if you play
Right.
it for like a day or two, all that goes away, and then you
Right.
remember
Sure.
that you can still play everything that you can play on a six string, and there's just more. There's nothing disappears.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Do you feel like when you go back to a six, it's weird, like in the same direction? Like it's weird for a six string player to pick up a seven or an eight. I know if
It
I
is
pick
a
up a
little
six,
weird.
it's
Like
like
it
this
it
thing is
just
so
feels,
tiny.
yeah, it feels tiny. Like it's
Yeah.
not like weird, like what is this, but it's definitely like where's the rest of it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's the one legged race guitar that is missing that other thing to go fast. I don't know.
Yeah, and the first thing I want to do is tune it down,
Oh, of
because
course, right. I mean, from listening to like Carcass back in the day, like B tuning on a six string was like my jam. When I heard a, I was like, "What was that?" and getting
yeah,
the
there's something very primal about it,
at the time it's metal edge, and it's like you're looking at it, it's like that's just a regular six string guitar. How does it sound like that? And then just
Yeah, yeah.
and then why are my strings like noodles? I don't understand that. So like learning
Yeah.
all that tech stuff as a kid was like it's like I would go to school with the guitar mags and with the metal mags and yeah. Hablo Espanol, but like what's the new Marshall JCM 800? Like you know what's the potentiometer ratio to tone and gain and EC33 placement, blah blah blah. So like that was the school for me. But as that pertains to what we're trying to stay on point, there's a really good stuff here, question wise. Daniel River Oath, I think we may have done some from him before, but he has a couple of cool questions slash comments, also from Instagram. So part one is, how much willpower does it take for you not to point at the glow in the dark compass inlays with this face every time you walk on stage? You can answer in any unit you prefer. So thank you for that question, Daniel, and I will turn it over to yeah.
Let's find out. We'll do the science experiment right
Right.
now. No,
um,
it's not that difficult when I'm playing a show because
right,
I
sure.
have to play the show. But I do think it's super cool. That was I'll spill the beans. That was one of your ideas that you wanted to surprise me with, basically, for this guitar. I never would have thought to ask for something like that, and the
Right,
the
right.
side dots also light up as well. So like it ended up being something that's really convenient that I never would have thought would be convenient. But it's definitely like a show thing, like a
Right.
live. You know,
Sure.
I don't sit here at home like flicking on the LEDs like for fun.
Right. Well, I did totally when it came in.
Yeah, I mean,
One, I want
every
to make
once in a
sure
while
it
I do.
worked, but still.
Now that I've done like 50 shows with it, the novelty is worn off a little bit. But
Right, sure. I would suggest anyone that can go on YouTube and look at Seven Spires live 2023, and just if they want to see that, like the placement and how things work, especially when it's a dark, smoky stage and that intro of Gods comes in, and then the smoke comes in, and
or better yet, come see us live at Mad with Power Fest in
then,
Madison, Wisconsin,
of course,
in August.
right.
We're headlining the first day of the festival, so full headlining set, 90 minutes.
Wow, holy
Gonna be
cow.
awesome. We're
Yeah.
busting out some stuff that we haven't ever played live before,
What?
as well as some stuff that we haven't played live in a long time.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Madison,
going to be
huh?
awesome. And so we're headlining one day, and I believe Unleash the Archers is headlining the other day.
Right on.
Um, so
That's
yeah,
amazing. So this is like your first headline gig, or
no, but definitely the first festival headliner.
okay, right on. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you've headline tours, like a festival.
Yeah, yeah, and we've
First
we've done
headline
like
festival.
hometown headline
Right
shows
on.
and like
Sure.
local stuff like that. But this is like an actual big one.
Cool. Yeah. So again, we'll put the link in the bottom. People can buy tickets and tons of awesome bands. So definitely go to see Spires playing the first night. Of course, obviously don't miss that. But yeah, tons of really awesome proggy, deathy, mathy, cool bands playing for sure. I don't know
Yeah,
why Wisconsin. That's just not a place. Maybe is that something that's a regular, like a yearly
yeah.
festival? Okay, cool. Right on.
Yeah, it's actually so the guys who did the cover of Succumb, the band called Lords of the Trident,
Hmm.
they're the ones who sponsor and run this festival as well.
Oh,
So
nice. Okay,
yeah, and
cool.
they've been doing it for a few years, and this year is going to a much bigger venue, much nicer venue, higher capacity, that kind of thing. So this is like the year, you know.
Awesome. Yeah. So definitely everybody interested, check it out. I'm sure it'll be worth the trip 1,000, 100 million%. So go
Absolutely. And there's all
support
kind
them.
of like arcade games and stuff at the festival. Like there are seats blocked off and stuff you
Right.
can go play. They're
Yeah.
doing a Magic the
So
Gathering tournament, like all this other extra non-musical stuff. So, you
that
know,
sounds amazing. If I hadn't have made a pact to never fly again, that would be on my list to do.
wow. That's
You,
very limiting.
it is, but you have a few NDAs with airplanes, like near death experiences, or NDE, sorry, NDE.
I was about to say that's a very different
Yeah, but whatever. We'll figure it
yeah.
out. Eventually, like I'm gonna have to go fly eventually, or just get a nice that double decker tour bus. It's like the Rage where you can sleep upstairs. I saw that. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Man, I hope they get those over here in the States because that was like the most fun travel
Oh,
experience
so
over in
they're
Europe.
only in Europe, those buses?
I think there might be one company that has one or two of them over here, but they're not really over here very much because also like
Wow.
our infrastructure isn't really designed for that. Like, you got low hanging traffic
Sure,
lights.
right, right.
Like
Gotcha.
it's not really very practical over here, but I hope it can become more practical because
Yeah,
God, it's
like
fun.
watching, I don't know if they still do like the road rig show or whatever where they talk to bands, and the first time seeing uh they walk in all that, and then they're like, oh, and there's steps at the back. You're like, steps for what? And you go upstairs like, well, this is where we actually sleep. It's like, oh, it's like
Yeah.
awesome. Like that's the dream, man. Is to like I'd sell my house and live just in that. It's amazing. One, it's bigger than my house, but two, because it's a tour bus. Like really,
Yeah.
very
It's
awesome.
a very practical way of doing things over there.
Right, right. You share that with like your headlining bands over there? Is that how they do?
We've done
Or
that once, and the entire tour package was on it. So it was 24 people in
oh,
one bus,
wow,
including the drivers and tour manager and stuff. So it was the whole tour in that one
wow,
vehicle.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
hopefully in the future it won't be quite that bad.
It was fun. Like I
Oh,
no
really?
regret. I
Oh,
think it was
oh,
awesome.
right on.
Like
Okay. Yeah, sorry.
everybody was
I didn't
super
know where you're
nice.
going with that. So
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. I mean, like
yeah.
we were all in there for a month, and the downstairs where like everybody would hang out and stuff was like so cramped that like we were all just, like touching thighs the whole time, and like but nobody was weird about it. So it was
Right.
like,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
just normal, and like it was great. Like that was one of the most fun travel tour live music experiences ever.